A few weeks ago, I made a video about a time trial frame that I built from scratch and the bike that I subsequently built that frame into. In this video, I'm going to take a look at a different frame that I built, this time a road bike frame, and again, like the time trial frame, I tried to do something a little bit different. This was back in 1995. Many of you may not have been born then, but unfortunately, I remember it quite well. Carbon frames were just a glimmer in designers' eyes. Well, that's not entirely true. There were some carbon frames available, but there weren't many, and they were very expensive. Most people had steel frames, either built or off the peg. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about a steel frame that I built. Also, back in 1995, digital photography hadn't been invented. Yes, it was pre-smartphone, so I don't have many photographs or documents of that frame, but I do have a few, and I'll use those to illustrate what I built. If you've got any questions, then leave them in the comment section. Remember, I do love cake, so please leave me a couple of cake emojis if you do leave a comment. Well, why not just leave some anyway? I'm sure I'll lap them up. This is the bike that the frame set was built into. I used 26-inch wheels, which I built myself. Note that the front has radial spokes, which was unusual at the time. As for the geometry, it was fairly standard for neutral handling, but I took advantage of those smaller wheels and reduced the top tube length. That's why the handlebar stem looks quite long. Also, like the time trial bike, I offset the rear dropouts in order to reduce the dishing of the wheel so it would be that little bit stronger. The standout feature in this photo are those double top tubes. Looking at the frame from a different angle, you can see that the down tubes are also double. I built the frame like this because I wanted it to be super stiff. That's why I also triangulated the seat stays through to the top tube. In addition, I made myself some very stiff, custom-made rear fork dropouts. The twin down tubes not only made the frame laterally stiff, but it also allowed me to route the front and rear gear changer cables through those tubes, therefore tidying the frame up a bit. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice some subtle differences between the two photos. In this one, which was just after I had built the frame, I painted it using rattle cans. This is so I could test the bike out. This second photograph is later, after I had had it professionally sprayed. Also, and I can't remember the reason why, I removed that triangulation of the seat stays. As I mentioned earlier, the frame was made of steel, as were the forks. Most of the tubes were 531 and they were cannibalized from other scrapped frames. However, the two down tubes were virgin material from a tube set that I had available to me. I did use a commercial investment cast fork crown, but the rear dropouts were made by me out of stainless steel. I did have to get a special flux in order to silver solder them. The seat tube, the cast bottom bracket and the chain stays were all cannibalized. All of the other joints were either brazed or fillet brazed. I don't have any records of what the frame would have weighed. However, I estimate it would be about 4 kilos for the frame and forks. Very heavy by today's standards, probably a little bit heavier than steel frames of yesteryear, but as I was about 10 kilograms heavier then, maybe the extra frame weight was neither here nor there. Unfortunately, I don't have any other photographs or video of me riding the bike. As far as I can remember, fairly unspectacularly, it didn't ride very much different to any other bike of the time. I certainly didn't notice the extra stiffness of the main triangle, possibly because the rear triangle and the forks were, well, fairly standard. One annoying feature of those twin down tubes was that in wet weather, water would spray up from the front tyre over my water bottle. I used the bike for about 4 or 5 years until the early 2000s, when I started audaxing more seriously. I bought a Thorn Nomad which suited those activities much better. I can't remember what happened to the bike and the frame. All I know is that I have no signs of it now.